This Torah class is brought to you by TorahAnytime.com.
You'll help me understand. We're back on. So maybe Rabbi will help me understand a paragraph in the Mesilat Yesharim. A paragraph in the Mesilat Yesharim. The Mesilat Yesharim quotes a very important Tanad B'Eliyahu in Chelkei HaChasidus. Says the Tanad B'Eliyahu, Parak Daled, Kol Chacham Yisrael, any Torah sage, sheyesh bo dvar Torah la'amitai, that really has a true knowledge of Torah, u'misaneach al kvodo shel HaKadosh Baruch Hu, and moans over the lack of honor of God, v'al kvodon shel Yisrael, and for the lack of honor of the Jewish people, kol yamav, u'misaveh, and he desires, u'meitzar, and he's distressed, l'chvoid Yerushalayim, over the lack of honor of Jerusalem, v'l'chvoid Beis HaMikdash, and the lack of honor of the temple, v'la Yeshua shetitzmach b'karev, and he yearns for the salvation, u'lekinos golios, and for the ingathering of the exiles, zoicha l'ruach hakodesh b'dvarav. He will merit the divine spirit in his words. So, just straight up, it's a tremendous Tanad B'Eliyahu. That the greatest aliyah a person could have comes from being distressed over the lack of Hashem's honor in the world, over the lack of honor of the Jewish people, the lack of honor of the Beis HaMikdash, yearning for the Yeshua and the Geula, that elevates a person to the Madrega that he will have Ruach HaKodesh. Okay, so probably we're all on this Madrega already, we're all Bali Ruach HaKodesh, probably, right? Says Mesilat Yesharim, v'yispalel tamid al gulasan shel Yisrael, always to daven for the redemption of the Jewish people, v'hashavas kvod shamayim le'iloi, and the restoration of God's honor. I want to read you 8 lines in the Mesilat Yesharim that are very difficult to understand. Okay, so that's what a Jew should do. Pray that Hashem's honor should be recognized and realized in the world, the Beis HaMikdash should be rebuilt, to yearn for the Geula. Now the Mesilat Yesharim has a kasha. You ready? You know, you have to treat the Mesilat Yesharim as if it would be a Rishon. Listen to the kasha of the Mesilat Yesharim. And if a person says, Mi ani, who am I? Uma ani safon, and what is my value? She'espalel ala golas al yisholayim, that I should daven for the redemption and to be taken out of this exile and for Jerusalem. In other words, it's a good kasha. Who am I? Gewaldige kasha. Who am I? I'm nothing. So how could I daven for these things? Maybe I could daven for my team to win the World Series. That I'm on the Madrega to daven for. But to daven that the Rebbeinu Shem should restore his Shechina to Tzion, who am I? Question. You think because I daven, all of a sudden the Jews in America are going to go back to Eretz Yisrael? They're going to realize that this is not our homeland. You think Mashiach's going to come because I daven, because I said, you think Mashiach's going to come? That's the kasha of Mesilat Yesharim. Maybe a person will say, who am I? You think my tefillah will be answered? It's a great question. And to me, he gives 2 answers, and he says 2 things that contradict each other. The answer is simple. Like that which we learned. Lefikach nivra ha'adam yichidi. The reason why God created the world with one man, kedei shekol echad yoimar, so that every individual could say, B'shvili nivra olam. The world was created for me. You know who I am? The whole world's for me. So the kasha was, who am I? Who am I? The world is only for me. The whole world is for me. Aniva afsiyoid. That's who I am. That sounds like my tefillos are very powerful. My tefillos could be accepted. And then the Mesilat Yesharim says, no, ukvar nachas ruach hulafanav. It brings God nachas sheyu banav mevakshim, that his children should daven umispalim al zois, and pray v'av shaloi tiyas b'akashasam, and even if he doesn't fulfill it, v'mnei shaloi yahigi hazman, because the time hasn't come, or meizet hamshia, for whatever reason, hinehem asu eshalem, we did our part, v'akadosh baruch hu samech v'zen, God's happy. He's mamish soiser himself. First he says, you know who I am? The world is for me. Nobody else matters. Everything else was created for me. That's who I am. I could daven for the Gula because it's my world. And then Mesilat Yesharim says, don't worry. even though your tefillah won't be listened to, but it makes God happy anyway. So wait a second. Am I important and my tefillah will work? Or am I nothing and my tefillah won't work, but it makes God happy? Which one? He doesn't say, two answers. He doesn't say like, V'yesharim, the first answer. V'oid, he doesn't say, V'teretz achrina. It sounds like he's saying one thing. Number one, the world is for me. And number two, don't worry, don't get carried away. Even if Hashem doesn't answer you, you make him happy anyway. So he had a kasha. Lest the person say, who am I that I should daven for the gula? The first answer is, who am I? I'm the whole world. And the second answer is, you're right, you won't be answered, but it makes God happy. It's a stira in the Mesilat Yesharim. The thing is, this is not one of those stiras from Zehiros to Chasidus. It's a stira from the first line to the second line. The answer is, I believe that the Mesilat Yesharim asked two questions. If you look at it, there are two question marks. And he's not giving two answers. Like every Chacham, he's answering Al Rishon Rishon, V'al Achrein Achrein. Listen carefully to his questions. V'im yoymar adam mi ani safan she'espalel ala golas v'al Yisharim. Question number one is, who am I to daven for the gula? That's the first question. The second question is not who am I, but will my tefillos actually accomplish something to bring Mashiach? It's a different kasha. Question number one is my own self-value. Question number two is, will my tefillos be effective? So the Mesilat Yesharim answers one question at a time. Question number one, who am I? That's not a kasha. The world is mine. It's my world. Any person sitting here is entitled to say, the Rebbe Hashem created the whole world for me, and everyone else sitting in this room is either to help me, to take me away, a challenge, a boost. Every person, God values every person like the whole world. Nobody could ever say, who am I? Who am I? You're the world. Every yid is the world. So that's the answer to the first question. The answer to the second question is, the second question was, will my tefillos ingather the exiles and create and bring in Mashiach? The answer to that is, it doesn't matter. Whether it will or whether it won't, it makes God happy. You did your part, and Hashem will worry about his part. I think that's how you have to read the Mesilat Yesharim. He's asking two questions, two independent questions, two questions that are not dependent on each other. And he's saying two distinct ideas, first answering the first question and then answering the second question. First question is, who am I? That is never a question. No Jew could ever say, who am I? Every Jew has infinite value. Every Jew is the world to God. Question number two is, will my tefillas be effective? Should I pour out my heart in Nachem, but you think the Rebbe Hashem is going to bring Mashiach? And the answer is, he might, he may not, but it doesn't really matter. It makes the Rebbe Hashem happy when a Jew is mevakesh Mashiach. Maybe this is a way to read the Mesilat Yesharim. Let's continue. Hinehem also shalahem HaKadosh Baruch Hu sameach bazeh. V'al heder zeh hadavar Hisraim hanavi. And because of the lacking of this concept, the Navi cries out, Vayar ki einish, vayishtoimem ki ein mafkiah. Ve'oimer tzion hi doiresh ein la. The Navi Yirmiyah says, Tzion, nobody seeks her out. Says Gemara in Sukkah, Meklal debai drisha. From here we learn out that it needs to be sought out. It needs to be sought out. A Jew needs to seek out Tzion. Basically, the Malbim explains on the pasuk L'shichnoi sidrashu v'asa shama. Right? It says in Re'eh L'shichnoi sidrashu v'asa shama. You're going to seek out the Makam HaMikdash and you're going to come there. So the Malbim says, what do you mean you're going to seek out the Makam HaMikdash? The Rebbeinu Shalom selected the Makam HaMikdash. How do we seek it out? So the Malbim says there's a klal and there's the Yisod, Musad, and there's a klal gadol. That basically, if you want Mashiach to come, you got to bang down the doors. You got to seek it out. Hashem will make it come when He wants it to come, but He only wants it to come. You got to push the button a little. You got to push the envelope. I don't know what that means. It doesn't mean going up to the Harabayas, because you can't go there. But it means something. It means you gotta push the envelope. You need to be B'nai Shalom. What's taking so long? You gotta be aggressive. You have to be aggressive. I don't know how to be aggressive. You gotta do something. You gotta cry. You gotta bang. You gotta say, Rebbeinu Shalom, what do you want me to? What do I need to do? What do you want Klal Yisrael to do? Miklal debai drisha. You gotta do something. If you want something, you become aggressive. You nudge, you bother, you annoy, you aggravate. Any of your kids ever annoy you and they get something? It's happened to me. It happens to the best of us. You make up your mind, you're not going to give it, you're not going to give in, you don't care, it's not right, you have your principles and you have your values that you can't, if they're going to beg, you're not going to give because then you're just training them to give, right? Everybody has their values, but you have there's one kid who really knows how to do it. Not all of them, they don't all know how to do it, but some of them have a certain talent that they could annoy you and you could give in anyway, and you don't feel like you're giving in on your values. You know how that works? I don't know how, they have that ability. They could annoy you even though, and you're giving in and you shouldn't and you're wrong, but what could you do? They pushed your buttons. You gotta push the buttons. That's the only way to do it. Miklal debai drisha, l'shichnai sidrashu. You need to seek out the Beis HaMikdash. You can't say, Rebbeinu Shalom, it's your world, you're gonna bring it when you want, when you see fit. No, you gotta annoy him. We have to figure out how to do it. We have to aggravate him. We have to push the buttons. Rebbeinu Shalom. We can't take it anymore. Miklal debai drisha. Like it says by Choni Amagel. They wanted to put Choni Amagel in Cherem. They said, "El moli Choni ata." You see, all right, I would put you in Cherem. But you're like a naughty child that sort of misbehaves and gets the father to get in. So we got to misbehave a little bit. You got to scream until Rebbeinu Shalom says, I don't want to hear this anymore. May we be zoicha that our tefillah should be neskabel barachamim uveratzayin and should be zoicha to the binyan Beis HaMikdash meher v'yameinu amen.
You've just experienced another Torah class brought to you by TorahAnytime.com.